Some believe that the highest and noblest work in this life is that of a mother, and I hope I can wholeheartedly agree with this statement because of my own personal experiences alongside my mother. She has shown me that anything is possible, and as many mothers have, she has motivated me to try the hardest I can while juggling her own struggles and raising three other kids. Additionally, her story has inspired me and my siblings and people around her as well, with um, with her amazing capabilities, her mentality and way of talking to people and thinking about other people, her showing compassion, and just her overall great way of viewing the world. However, I can't simply continue to agree with the statement without telling you guys how amazing my mother is, why I think her accomplishments stand out to me, how they inspire my own accomplishments, and just how much of a person she is to look up to in general. So my mother's name is Noemi Moreno, and like many others, she immigrated to the United States seeking opportunities she would have not had in Mexico. La Ciudad de Mexico was her home for her first 17 years of age. She had lived there since the day she was born and alongside her family and worked hard alongside her family, well, her mother, and eventually she had to say goodbye. She got married to my father and headed to a brand new country, not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, and not fitting in at all. Um, she had planted herself in Los Angeles, and that's where I was born, the place that she set down and put her roots in. And she worked as hard as she could to send money back to her mother and the siblings back home. But unfortunately, as cliche as it may sound, things did not go as planned, and for a short while she was forced to stay home, she was unable to keep attending school, which shattered her dreams. She aspired to continue doing school here, as people around her had been doing, and she wasn't able to because of my father. So, eventually, my older sister was born, and years later, my twin sister and I followed. And during our childhood, my father was detained for quite some time, so we never had that fatherly figure. He was never actually there for us, and we didn't know much of the situation. However, my mother was able to make sure that she could give us everything we needed, regardless. She gave us the motherly love that we barely even felt there was an absent presence, and we just thought it was amazing of her to do that as a single mother, juggling three jobs for quite some time, and her three kids, along with many other struggles, all alone in a country she had never been in. As the Statue of Liberty's poem once said, give me your tired, your poor, and your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. My tired mother, how I look up to her, how I've looked up to her for all these years, her strength and her ability to endure the troubles that we sometimes put her through, the troubles that the world put her through, the ever-changing circumstances, not seeing her home family for more than 2 decades, not seeing the place she was born in for more than 2 decades, and just every struggle that the world threw at her. She was able to hold in all the tears, every single tear that might have came up to her eye, every time something devastating occurred, only to keep us from feeling scared. How we felt mattered more than however she felt. She was able to put herself first as much as she could, and the fact that she was not able to reach her highest level of education, even though that was her dream, just because she seeked a better life for us, does not change how wise and sensible my mother is. She may not have a college degree, she may not have a high school diploma, but she indeed has showed me the importance of education, the importance of trying harder, and motivation. She has given me the motivation to keep on trying harder and trying to push my limits. And that did not change the fact that she was wise beyond her years when she was just starting to establish herself in this country. So most of the time, as we drive into the busy freeways of Los Angeles on our way to school or on her way to her job, her faith in God showed, and she would do the sign of the cross every single time we got on the freeway, always. And relatives of friends of her had always stopped me to tell how much of a good person she is. She always made me proud. She's so selfless and strong, And I will always remember a short story she had once told us regarding a very tough time for us. She had told us that she was coming home from work after a hard day of work, and she was stressing and worried about not being able to feed us anything. So she stopped by, and with the very last few cents that she had, she bought a few slices of ham because maybe she could make us a sandwich or something. Um and on her way home, a homeless person asked her for anything, and she didn't have no more money. She had just wasted it on the ham that she was planning to feed us, but she gave it to him regardless. She had faith in God, and she said that it's okay, that she'd rather help this man, and just trying to figure out what she would do to make sure we eat. And as she decided to go back home, she was worried about what we were gonna eat, praying that something would happen. She held her breath, but when we got home, our neighbor, an African American woman that passed away just a few years ago, was able to help her. She handed her $100 and insisted she kept it. My mother came home relieved and grateful for that. She saw it as a sign of her faith and God, but I saw it as an act of selflessness by my mother. And all throughout my mother's life, I can see that she's been yearning to breathe free, and she's had faith in everything, and that's why she's tried as hard as she could. And as a single mother, she managed to make the financial struggles we had barely visible throughout our childhood. She endured abuse, racism, and financial struggle because she did not earn the legal minimum wage. She did not live in the best area. We were not able to receive the best education in the top schools, or have as everything that we would have had if our situation was different. And through all that, she triumphed. She started off with an 8-hour job that became 2 jobs, and then eventually she began to juggle not only 2, she juggled 3 jobs, and the 4 kids. And as a young kid, I looked up to her. I would wonder how she could possibly do all this while I could barely get my English essays in time. And after decades of constant work, for more than 2 decades, we now sit comfortably in our homes. It just wasn't hard work though, and it was her amazing mentality, her wise character that pushes us all through to try harder. And in March of last year, we received a letter. That letter that granted my mother her permanent residency in this country. And as the world slowly returns to normal, my mom is getting ready to quit her 2 jobs and focus on her new job at the hospital. And she's now aiming to continue the education that she once desired to have but wasn't able to take. And I can tell now that she was tired, she was poor, and she was the one yearning to breathe free, and now she can. Esfuerzo, dale ganas, y si se puede, hijo. She'd tell me that, and now I see that it was always worth it. That her efforts and her triumphs, all the struggles we came through, were always worth it, and my mother made sure we realized that and saw that every single day. And for that, I will always be grateful, and for that, that's why I chose to speak on my mother, about all her accomplishments, and how that pushed me to try harder in school and in every aspect of life. That is why I pushed myself in school. Why this year I took 6 of my regular classes, 2 APs, 3 dual enrollment courses simultaneously, and another enrichment course. Altogether, managed to pass all 9 with an A, and this is the final class. And I am hoping to continue advancing just to help my mom, help her mom, her family that she has not seen in more than 2 decades, and just make her proud, because she has been one of the greatest forces of all time in my life, and I'm eternally grateful for all that she's done, and for that I'll always continue to fight.